You're listening to the Modern Healthcare Back Office, a podcast dedicated to solving the billing issues and gridlock facing the healthcare industry, presented by Prochant, hosted by Chuck Ellis and Rachel Schools.
Hey there, folks. Chuck here, and welcome to the Modern Healthcare Back Office. I am joined by my co-host, Ms. Rachel Schools. How you doing, Rachel?
I'm amazing, Chuck. How are you?
I am also amazing, and we are live today. I love these live episodes. We have an audience with us today, and we are joined not only by our audience, but by an infusion expert that has been on the show quite a few times, Miss Tina Ratliff. How you doing, Tina?
Great. How are you guys doing?
Great. Thank you. And we're going to go through, you've got a presentation prepared today. So this is going to be more of a presenting style thing, but Rachel and I will jump in if we've got questions or we want to clarify on anything. So we will turn it over to you. And when you're ready, take it away.
All right. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. So just some information about me and my background. I always blush when Chuck says expert because, as we all know, Infusion is an ever-changing machine that we are always learning every day. So I'm Tina Ratliff. I'm the pharmacy reimbursement manager at Prochant. I've been in this business for a long time. Some of the people here say 85 years, but I think that their math is a little bit wrong. I've had my own outsourced billing company. I've worked for medical record software companies and done a lot of consulting and going around to pharmacies that want to better their how the processes are. So I have a lot of experience in that too. Yeah, and I live in Nashville, country music capital.
Do you get out much, Tina? Do you go listen to music a lot? Do you do the grand old, what is it, the grand old?
People, the first thing they always ask me, they say, "Oh, you must love country music," and I don't.
Okay, I'm noting that down.
But it is a great place to come and visit, especially if you love country music. It's all
It's a
here.
very fun city, even if you don't like country music.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about plan of attack for staffing strategy. So one of the things that's really hard is staffing. It can be hard to find someone who not only has all of the knowledge that you're looking for, but also that attitude that's right for your business. So we get a lot of clients here at Prochant. I know that they may lose their head biller and now they're kind of stuck and they need some more experienced people, or they just don't have enough staff. And so we see that a lot here. What's really important too is when you are thinking about staffing, make sure that you have the right people in the right spots. So an example would be you may be hiring for a billing specialist, but you're also needing a intake person, and you might find someone that you interview for that billing specialist position that you're like, man, this person seems to have everything I'm looking for from an intake level. That might be something that they absolutely love. And if somebody truly enjoys what they're doing, they're going to do a better job at it. So making sure that you have the right people in the right spots is just as important as just having people. So the other thing that I think is really important when you're hiring people is I like to tell people I can teach people a lot of things, but I can't, their attitude is what they have to come with. I can't change that. I can't change their work ethic. I can't change, those are things that I can't teach, right? So sometimes experience is great, but sometimes if you can find that special person that has that really great drive and work ethic, sometimes they're worth investing in. So always keep that in mind too. It's also really important that when you are coming up with your strategy to have, just like it says here, what specifically are you wanting to turn around? Is it measurable? So can I measure this goal to make sure that it is something that I can actually reach? This is also really important for your staff because if they feel right out of the gate that they can't reach that goal, they kind of just throw their hands up before they actually get started. So that's super important to be achievable. And it's got to be something that's going to make a difference. It's also really important to know what's going on. So I'm going to constantly be checking and comparing my data, my KPIs, for example, my DSO, my clean claims rate, my cash to net. Always be looking at that. Sometimes I find that people don't look at that until they realize they have a huge problem that could have been It could have not have happened if you had noticed it earlier. So that's something that I see quite a bit when I'm doing consulting. And in workflow implementation. So it's really important to make sure buy-in's really important. So do we always have 100% buy-in? No. You may come up with a new process that's going to streamline things. Some people are like really great with change and some people are not. Usually when I would go to office, there'd always be at least one person in every office that when I'd show them something new that's going to make their job a lot easier, in their mind, it's not, because it's not how I do it every day, what I'm used to. So making sure that you have your team buy-in, that you involve them. So one of the things that I do when I'm talking about workflow implementation is let's say they're using paper and you want them to start noting in something else. Let them, if they feel like that is not a trustworthy way, that if I put my notes in there, what if some of them disappear, etc. Let them keep both for 30 days, right? For 30 days, you can, and if you find out, you see that it's not working and it's not keeping your notes, then let's talk about it again. So things like that to kind of get those people moving in a forward direction helps as well.
I love that you put that there, Tina, before you move on about involving your team, right? So you've done a lot of consulting. I've done a lot of consulting. And anytime that I'm doing any type of workflow optimization and I go in and I start meeting, the first thing I do is I'm like, all right, managers, leaders, clear the room. Let's talk to the team.
And sit with them.
Works.
I sit with them.
Yes.
I walk around their
Yes.
office and sit with them and see how they do their job.
Yep.
And see what can I do to make this person's job easier. That's going to have not only easier, but also going to have a positive result in the end. So, yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead. I just wanted to comment on that.
No. That was good. All right. So finding the breakdown or the bottleneck. This could be a process thing. This could be hey, I've got a big AR problem happening. You want to make sure that you can figure out where in my chain, which link is broken, right? So we'll start with intake. So you really want to standardize practice for your intake. One of the things that we have here is I love a good template, something that everybody's following. They're asking the same questions, they're gathering the same data, and everybody's doing things the same. If you look in the system, you're going to, no matter who did it, you're going to see the same thing. It's really good to have that set up, especially for your patient registration. So like especially your verifications, right? Here are insurance verifications. One of the most important things you'll probably do is this right here. This will make or break whether you get paid or not a lot of the time. Maybe I'd say what, Rachel, 8 out of 10. You can trace it all the way back to the intake.
Yes. Well, yes, 8 out of 10. Yes.
Yeah, considering bogus denials and things like that.
I was going to say, sometimes payers actually do just make mistakes, right?
Yeah. You got to leave a little bit in there for the bogus denials, right? One of the things with insurance verification is that I particularly does every pharmacy I've been to do this? No. I do it because it has worked well for me, is I have them call on every new patient or new therapy because I want to give them coding, make sure these codes are covered. I want to make sure there's not a carve out and they don't have infusion benefits. All of those things I want to make sure now with insurance is going to sending things to certain pharmacies. I want to make sure that's not something I have to worry about. And all of that's outlined on my insurance verification. And so I just think it's really hard to get that level of detail through these automated eligibility tools because infusion is such a niche, right? And so that's just one thing that I recommend, especially if you're having trouble down the line with things like authorization. They tell us we don't need one. Non-covered codes, drugs that have to go through a pharmacy plan or some other plan. I think it's just really good practice. Prescription processing, prior authorization. So one of the things with prior authorization that I find almost in every pharmacy has a problem is communication, right? So the pharmacy gets a call from the doctor, they get an order change, they put it in, the patient's already on service, so we're just changing the order. They don't really realize that, one, if the drug units go up, we've only have authorized so many units. Now we're going to run out before we expect to. Maybe the frequency changes. Now that might be another code that we have to build that's not part of our authorization. So that's a big one that I see a lot. Also, whatever system you use, putting inventory in and having it so that it's coded correctly and things like that. Billing needs to know about that. So before they get that claim that they need to submit, does it have proper coding and all of those pieces that are more billing specific that the pharmacy may not know. All right. Billing. Coding accuracy and ongoing education. So there's a lot of resources out there for coding and the coding changes periodically. So that's something we really have to watch out for, especially near at the end of the year. And also, like I said earlier, if inventory is being entered and no one knows the code or they kind of guess at the code, that's another thing that we really have to watch out for. And then also ongoing education. So this is great. NHIA, there's some other resources. Sometimes software companies will put out some really great, even us, really great webinars and things like that for people to attend, especially Medicare, talking about Medicare changes. Really great to keep people involved in that so that you can grow them. So that's really important as well. Claim submission. So using EDI integration through your practice management system, most of the clearinghouses now you can do that with your system. Always better to do stuff electronically. You have your proof of filing. You have some of the portals are another way that you can sometimes get documentation loaded through portals so that you don't have as many claims denials. Really important to use the automation around. And then payment tracking. So if you don't post denials so that they can be reported on, please, for the love of God, post those denials. That is such useful information that I see so many times that people, because it's a little extra step and they want to hurry and get things posted, they don't do it. But that is just gold and when you're looking at your metrics, when you're trying to find trends before they become so bad that now you have a huge hit to your AR. Very important, the tracking of denials by payer. All right, so denials is a perfect thing to lead us into trending. So like we talked about before, stay current, make sure that you know your upcoming changes that are happening. Make sure to sign up for things like NHIA, Medicare, so that you are getting, even your software company, so that you're getting alerts, so that you know that that's happening before it happens and all of a sudden you have denials happening. And even have a designated person who maybe is the person that just owns that and notifies everyone and new things that are coming down the pipe. Communication with your payers. So you want to make sure that you have a nice open line of communication, especially with like your provider relations rep. They can really help you, especially when you do run into these types of things that maybe you didn't notice that a payer had stopped paying for a certain drug or low paying a certain drug. And now you have 200 claims for that drug that are underpaid. You can work with your provider relations rep, save a lot of time on your back office, your collectors, and get those things reprocessed. So it's really good to keep that connection. Contract negotiation. So this is really important. I know sometimes when you're a biller, you aren't really involved a lot in this. Some places actually have a specific person that does all their contract negotiation. You want to be really careful, especially now, because the drug, sometimes you're just making above cost. So it's really important that you look at that before you sign anything. Make sure that whatever they're allowing is going to cover your cost, and then try to go back to the table with them and show them, I'm paying this much in cost on this drug and you guys are only reimbursing this much. This is below cost, or this is, if I look at administration charges, this is below cost, and just make sure you're really informed on making that decision. So denials, again, I love denials. They tell us so much as long as we're putting them in. One of the things that we like to do here is the strike while the iron's hot, right? So as soon as my claim gets denied, I want to try to turn that around and get somebody working on that immediately so that I can get that money in the door really quickly. If I wait 30 days, 45, not 30 days, maybe let's say 45 days before I touch a new denial, Now I'm already 45 days in, and they technically could take another 30 days to get that denial straightened out for me. So working those in a timely manner is a really, really good thing to do. Identifying trends. So this is another thing. Like I said earlier, if you're starting to notice an upkick in a certain denial for a certain payer, that is a big red flag that there could be an issue with your contract. Sometimes they switch systems and they have to reload your contract and they don't do it correctly. And if some of you might have already gone through that, where for months everything's denying, you're ripping your hair out. You want to make sure and identify those trends right out of the gate so that you can start working on them right away before that does become something huge. Continuously measuring that. So you do want to make sure that when you're working these denials, if we're getting the same denials over and over again, that means that we could be doing something wrong, or someone could be doing something wrong and maybe not realizing it. If they're the biller and they're not looking at AR, they may not even realize that what they're doing is incorrect. And usually in a lot of companies, I notice it will take a collector coming over and going, hey, so-and-so payer doesn't like it when you're billing this code. They say they don't pay that code, so you want to keep monitoring for those types of things so that you can, again, see those right before they become an issue.
And when you say monitoring, Tina, I just want to call out, we don't mean just running a denial report and doing a pivot table and working through it, right? This needs to be analytics. So data needs to be feeding into a trending sort of chart so that you're actually able to see those trends, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. To see, is this something that's continuing? And then once you resolve something, you're going to have to monitor and make sure that it doesn't start happening again, right? That you don't have some issue with claims processors at the insurance company and it's not that's happening and going to keep it going. So yeah, it's very important to monitor it. All right. Thank you guys for joining us, taking time out of your busy days.
Yeah. And thank you, Tina. That was really insightful. I appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure to have you on the Modern Healthcare Back Office and sharing your insights. And you and Rachel are two peas in a pod when it comes to that sort of thing. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. If you're listening to the recording, please like and subscribe to this if you're watching us on YouTube. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, please go to the review section and give us 5 stars. It'll really help this podcast get seen by more people. As always, I want to thank you for joining us today. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Modern Healthcare Back Office, a presentation of Prochant, a wholly owned revenue cycle management service dedicated to serving HME, pharmacy, infusion, and other healthcare providers. Learn more about us at prochant.com.